This is the DTV Digest, the podcast that brings you news and reviews of films which didn't make it to the cinema. And now, here's your host, Mike Parkin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the DTV Digest. I'm your host, Mike Parkin, and joining me tonight are Richard Hawes.
Hello, everybody.
And Stephen Lockridge.
Hello.
We've been away for a little bit, so we've got a bumper episode for you. We have 6 main reviews looking at. Kicking off with White Elephant, the latest film from Jesse V. Johnson. Then we've got Last Look, in which Charlie Hunham tries to keep Mel Gibson out of jail. Then we've got The Retreat, A Mother's Fury, Ultrasound, and Narco Sub. Our short shot this week is Kung Fu Kerfuffle. And our DTV throwback is a little film called Takedown. So without further ado, let's crack on. Our first review then is White Elephant. A former Marine, now turned cop, she finds herself in deep trouble when she is the remaining eyewitness to an assassination and finds help from the most unlikely source. Okay, guys, it wasn't too long ago that we were singing the praises of Jesse V. Johnson with Hell Hath No Fury. Unfortunately, my personal opinion is that this is nowhere as good. From a technical point of view, as usual, Jesse's bringing his A game. The film looks great. There's some great bits of violence going on, lots of blood squibs and pumping arteries and that sort of thing. Olga Kurylenko is pretty good at that sort of thing. Certainly sort of proven herself before in other films. But unfortunately, the rest of the cast don't really get a lot to do apart from Michael Rooker. And for me, the film just doesn't flow. It's like anytime it gets going, it has to stop and go back to Bruce Willis or John Malkovich, and then do a little bit more, then stop again and go back to Bruce Willis and John Malkovich, or take your pick. And it just sort of, it stops the flow. The film doesn't really seem to have a plot as such. You're not really sure why anything's happening. Certainly Michael Rooker's motivation is it's a throwaway line, basically. And stuff happens and it's like, why is this stuff happening? How do you feel about this, Rich, this one?
Oh no, well, I really liked it, but I do kind of see where you're coming from with a couple of the points. I mean, the sort of the key structure of the film would conventionally be leaning into focusing on Olga Kurylenko's character. Whereas she is much more of a supporting player, even though she's quite pivotal. The focus is on Michael Rooker, who, as you say, his motivations aren't very clear. And then it's only really in the final act that, things sort of shift around. For the most part, it feels a bit odd that you're following his character because there's not a lot going on with it. But it's another, kind of hitman, character who, not sees the light or whatever, but if you for whatever reason, he ultimately becomes kind of an anti-hero, whereas previously he's just a heavy-handed enforcer kind of character. This reminded me a lot of both The Package and the Debt Collector movies. It's very much in that vein of crime film mixed with action, lots of characters and interesting sort of character beats and stuff going on. Some of this, so if we look at Debt Collector, for example, I think it was Vladimir Kulich was the sort of boss character. Here we've got Bruce Willis, and it's just not, you can't, it just doesn't really work very well. Unfortunately, Bruce is, for reasons that have now become apparent, he's just not very present in the movie, and he's some of his dialogue is even dubbed quite obviously, so it's a bit distracting. Although having him there along with John Malkovich is good marquee value, so that's obviously why they've done it. And I think they've got a good cast here. Michael Rooker is very well known these days for his character roles that he plays as in Guardians of the Galaxy and all that sort of stuff. But he does have a history as a sort of a leading man in this kind of role. So, for example, American Yakuza 2, as it was released in the UK,
back to back,
back to back, the original title. He was sort of he did kind of the action hero thing there, and I think he's done it a couple of other times.
Replacement Killers.
Yeah, probably, but again in a supporting
role.
Yeah. Whereas I'm thinking like so in this one he's the lead basically. Although it's hard to. He's very stoic, and there's not a lot to grab onto with his character, unfortunately. But I did like it, and Olga Kurylenko definitely has more to work with. There's more going on with her character, but we don't focus on that very much. Her performance reminded me of Sentinel that she did, where she was the main character. Similar kind of circumstances. I think yes. I do see where you come from, but I did really enjoy it. I thought the way the final act sort of unfolded, fairly typical, but very, enjoyable fashion. I mean, there's a guy's head explodes and stuff at one point, which is quite surprising. And
that was nice, that kind of reminded me of that bit in Rambo, the fourth one, set in Vietnam, where he's using the 50 cal machine cannon.
Yeah.
Well,
and the whole assault on the house is basically Last Blood as well. Essentially the same thing kind of is happening. Now, one thing that bugged me was that Olga Kurylenko, she's being hunted in the movie, and a couple of points, these attacks are happening, and the guys who are after, I mean, it's like stormtroopers. They've clearly got the drop on her. Like several times, she is pointing one way, they're behind her, they start firing, and so that was bugging me a bit, because it was just like,
well, this is the other thing. I mean, it's like they try to take her at home. She's able to sort of fight them off and kill them, and then the same guy who's in charge leads the second attack, using exactly the same tactics, thinking, oh, she'll never figure this one out. It's like, yeah, but she's done this already to you, and you're trying to do exactly the same thing. I thought that was ridiculous. The other thing, there's a couple of things from a sort of tactical point of view. One is that unfortunately, Olga Kurylenko cannot carry an assault rifle. There are a couple of times when she's just not aiming it properly. It's aiming in the sky and all this sort of stuff. It's
well, there is that, and also even when she's just kind of carrying it around, she just doesn't really. She's supposed to be this hardcore killer type, and she just doesn't seem to be prepared. It's just like they're filming the scene. It's like, oh, she's got to be springing into action. It's just like, well, she doesn't seem as prepared as you would expect. I mean, we've had like Megan Fox did the Rogue film. I thought
she was much more believable.
I felt so, but which is quite weird because Olga's got so much experience in the action genre now.
The other sort of really silly bit as well, and I can see why they did it just for the visual look of it. But there's a stupid bit, during that sort of siege of the house where somebody slaps a piece of C4 onto the pane of glass of the French doors. And I thought, why? Just break the glass. Just shoot the glass out. Why do you need a big block of C4 to blow up? It just looked ridiculous. It really did. But anyway,
a couple more things I wanted to mention was, so you've got the obligatory mentor student kind of thing going on where Michael Rooker is kind of, although he apparently gets on with Carlos, although there's a couple of scenes where it seems like he really hates him and stuff, but they kind of, it seemed a bit unclear how he really felt about him, because that didn't, and again, I think that was the way the character was portrayed for the audience as well. We're not sure whether we're supposed to like him or whatever. But anyway, Carlos really reminded me a lot of Max Raposi. In the way he looked.
Yeah, definitely.
So that was kind of, again, sort of, bittersweet kind of seeing him and sort of being reminded of, what could have been and stuff like that with his passing. But yeah, that sort of just struck me. And the other thing was the Rooster Rojo, product placement. It's just getting crazy now with some of these films. I mean, we've seen it in a few of Johnson's, including Avengement. But this one, it's like every couple of minutes, he's like pulling out a bottle of tequila.
Yeah. And this is his sort of "see you next Wednesday" motif, isn't it? Basically, that was the John Landis one.
I don't know. Is it a real brand or is it like a made-up thing that they put in the movie? I don't know. Is it like the Red Apple cigarettes in Quentin Tarantino and stuff like that? I don't know. I just presume it was product placement because it just sort of plays that way. But because there's like clear signs all over and bottles and anyway, so that was a bit jarring for me as well. But I did really enjoy it. It's not a high watermark sort of interesting film like Hell Hath No Fury, which we barely had a few weeks ago, considering we waited a long time for that movie and then two come along at once. I do like the package. I like the Debt Collector movies, especially.
Yes, I like the package.
And so following in that kind of gangster crime film sort of, not Guy Ritchie, because we're not sort of leaning down that too much. I mean, they're still very, serious.
No one was pontificating. No one was monologuing, which is...
Yeah, not too much, no. Yeah. And I thought I did enjoy it. And it's a very brisk movie. It's only 88 minutes or so, I think. So, yeah, I think not one of his best, but certainly not one of his worst. And, definitely a decent movie. Well worth watching.
I think overall it is decent, but coming on the coattails of Hell Hath No Fury, and his other works of late, it does feel a bit of a misstep overall. But a little blip. Like, no one's going to sort of worry too much.
Don't you find the third act in a lot of these films is basically exactly the same? It's like Hell Hath No Fury kind of had this same act, and The Mercenary and stuff. It's all the big rush of bad guys in this. You've
still got too many people on the roster. Get the cast list done. Compared to the other films which have borrowed Bruce Willis's name of late, this does stand head and shoulders above those for sure. I think
a bit of a reunion with well, they don't share the screen, but obviously Bruce and John Malkovich did the Red movies together. I don't know if they've done anything else, but
I don't think they needed that much Bruce in this film. I think that
there was more than I thought, because I thought he's out now, and there's no, there's more.
And I don't think they really sort of like cemented what Rooker's relationship with him was. At the end, you kind of you're led to believe that actually they go back ages, and you get the feeling that sort of Rooker's character is the only one who could sort of pal around with him a bit without getting shot between the eyes. But at the same time, it could have needed a bit more. That's a bit of a paradox, isn't it? On one hand, I'm saying no, it needs less Bruce, and the other hand, I'm saying it needs more relationship between Bruce and Rooker.
Yeah, I just don't think you would have got that with maybe that was in the original script. Maybe things had to be adapted somewhat for the situation. And I think we've seen that kind of dynamic between the boss and the sort of the trusted henchman or whatever. We've seen that explored in several films, and this film does it. It just doesn't quite know what it's doing, and I think Rooker's playing it fine, but I think he's playing it too stoic. There needed to be more character development there,
I think so,
for us to sort of latch onto.
I think he underestimated the kind of film he was getting involved in. But there you go.
But it was nice to see him in it. I did enjoy the sort of change of pace of seeing, because a lot of these films they put Bruce Willis in, then there's like some other younger, maybe 10 years younger or, whatever. Yeah. But in this case, we've got Rooker, who's older than Bruce, or about the same age, I would have said, because he started he started out around like the late 80s.
Because Henry was his first film.
Yeah, interestingly enough, he had a small role in Above the Law, Steve Seagal.
All right.
Yeah, he was
The other interesting
like
thing, there is sort of an interesting sort of visual Easter egg in that when Rooker and his protege get rid of the first couple of bodies, and they sort of cut them up and put them into the suitcases. A little bit of a spoiler here, but that is kind of like a callback to Rooker's first film, Henry's Portrait of a Serial Killer, because that's kind of how that film ends. very, very similar sort of to feel to that scene. But anyway, on that note, Rich, how are you going to score it?
Well, I think it's a very respectable 7.
Okay. I'm going to go a 6 on this one. It's a high 6, but still a 6. So a 6 and a 7 for White Elephant. You can find this at the moment on Sky Cinema, or if you're in the US, I'm sure you can pick it up elsewhere. Go check it out. Our next review is Last Looks. A disgraced ex-cop seeks solace by moving to the woods, but his quiet life comes to an end when a private eye recruits him to investigate a murder. Now, Steve, unfortunately, you're the only one who's managed to catch this in time for this podcast. I had a look at the trailer, and I'm kind of on the fence about these sort of films which, especially the way the trailers are cut to sort of make it look like, oh, look at all these sort of crazy zany people in this sort of crazy zany situation. Isn't it fun and quirky and all this sort of stuff? And I'm on the fence, literally on the fence about these sort of films. I'm not sure if I kind of like them or really hate them. How do you feel about this film? Because do you think it adds up to the way it's been marketed as this sort of like, sort of quirky, sort of whodunit kind of situation?
Yeah, I mean, basically that's what it is. It is, you're quirky, no characters, generic. There's all something lying underneath or whatever, and it's enjoyable. It's one of them, private eye detective story, but rather than going down, like the noir road, it goes down the strange and quirky road. And obviously you've got like Charlie Hunham, who's investigating the murder of Mel
Gibson's wife, isn't it? Yeah. So Mel Gibson in this, Mel Gibson plays an on-screen sort of judge, kind of like a Judge Judy, Judge Rimmer kind of, Judge Rinder kind of scenario, isn't it?
No, it's more like he plays a judge, but it's more like a Criminal Minds or Law and Order type thing, rather than. So
it's a scripted show.
Yeah,
more
rather than
sort of reality TV kind of thing.
Yeah, and is an absolute drunk alcoholic.
Yeah,
and that's why he can't remember what happened the night his wife is found dead. So obviously he's a prime suspect for it. The producer, showrunner's loving all publicity, and then hires Charlie Hunham to solve the murder, and also his ex partner's gone missing as well. So it's all intertwined. 25 different threads coming together and blah blah blah, and but it's really good. I mean, the thing with Gibson is, he's playing it quite close to the bone, really. After what he was kind of accused of. But there's lots of scenes with his daughter, and they're actually quite touching and moving because he loves his daughter to bits in it, and they're really good. And then obviously you've got like his daughter's teacher, who gets dragged into it as well, and lawyers, producers, TV runners, everyone kind of becomes a suspect. So it is quite generic, but it's nicely shot. I'm not, to be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of Charlie Hunham at all, but he's not too bad in this. He's okay. And you've got Clancy Brown in there, you've got Rupert Friend in there. There's decent cast. Marina Baccarin as well. playing the ex. But she's kind of wasted, really. She's only in about 3 or 4 scenes at the beginning, and that's it, really, for her. But it is funny. It's done well. And the ending's no big surprise, really, but...
I must admit, I do like... Right. I do like films which are set within the film world, for one thing. So I like that sort of layering of sort of narratives. So it's got that going for it for sure. I didn't realize Clancy Brown was in this, which is definitely a plus point in its favor. Sort of for having that. Well, and I did like the trailer. Overall.
I mean, Clancy Brown, again, it's 2-3 scenes.
I'm sure,
yeah.
But he's one of those guys who can sort of come in and go, oh, that's him, and it does sort of just lift things. Anyway, I'm sort of, Have you heard of this film called Bullet Train with Brad Pitt that's coming out in the summer?
Yeah.
You see, this kind of falls into that sort of category for me. It's that sort of like, look at all these wild and weird characters we're throwing at the screen, and our guy's the normal one in the middle of it all. It's like, oh, okay, so just all these weird characters just happen to center on this one story.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. It's Hollywood. They're all overblown characters. That type of thing. Even Charlie Hunnam's character as well. He calls himself, I think, it's a 100ist or something. Basically, he sends what happens.
Oh, that's right. He got rid of all of his stuff, didn't he?
Yeah, he's got like 100 possessions, and that's it. He can't have any more than that. And then it's everyone's got the little quirk. Gibson's the alcoholic, or the producer's way over the top and everything. So yeah. It's nothing groundbreaking, but it's enjoyable,
Okay. So, and how are you going to score it, Steve?
I'd give it a 7.
Okay. Unfortunately, Steve's the only one to have seen it in time for the podcast, but there you go. It's a 7 out of 10 from us. Go check it out. That's Last Look. Our next review is The Retreat. Renee and Valerie head up to a remote log cabin for a premarital retreat. Only when they get there, they find their friends are missing. It's not long before they realize they are being watched and are in grave danger. I pretty much like this one, I must admit. Interesting to see Aaron Ashmore turn up for the first time in Donkeys and anything. But Steve, what did you make of The Retreat?
A little bit cooler than you, I'd say. The thing that got me is, I had a quick look on IMDb beforehand, just to get a little bit of a gist of it and everything. The first thing one of the reviews says is, so dark you can't see half the film, and it's true. So half of it, I'm just like, I don't know what's happening because I can't see anything. The screen is more or less black. And
what were you watching it on?
I started off on my TV. No, sorry, I started off on my phone, turned the brightness all the way up. Then I managed to stream it to the TV.
Yeah.
And even turn the brightness on the TV. I just couldn't see anything. Like, especially the beginning.
Yeah.
And there's quite a scene where one of the women are like kept in a barn type thing. Couldn't see a thing. It really, really annoyed me. And again, it's nothing we haven't seen before. Except maybe going for the LGBTQ angle, which doesn't really bring anything new. They're just people, waiting. I'm quite surprised it didn't go more down the Trump angle, MAGA hats and stuff like that, which I thought it might have done, but it didn't really go that political with it. It was basically just, let's kill the homosexuals and put it online and stream it. But I thought there was a couple of decent kills. especially involving the monitor.
The monitor, yeah.
Yeah. And performances were good. I just think the technical stuff really let it down for me. It really did.
And Rich, what did you make of The Retreat?
I liked it a lot. The thing you say about the darkness of the visuals. So this is something a problem I have with a lot of the screeners that we watch is when I'm watching them on watching these screeners. For some reason, they're usually a lot darker than they're intended to be. I used to think it was the film, and then I realized no, it's actually the way I'm watching the film. So I don't know what is happening there. But in this case, for instance, I didn't have that trouble. I was watching it through my TV, through an app, and it was absolutely fine for me, which was refreshing in a way, really. But yeah, I did. It is typical and conventional. There's not a lot that's fresh here. The sexuality of the lead characters is kind of the key part, and it's kind of obviously a motivation for the story as well of what's happening. But aside from that, it's your fairly standard people go to a cabin in the woods kind of tale, but or even like The Hunt recently, which did sort of lean into that sort of Donald Trumpish kind of stuff.
Yeah,
you're saying about Steve. The Hunt I really loved, and that's got a real sense of humor about it and stuff. But the sort of meeting up with they're arriving in town, they meet up with some people who are being a bit off with them, or a bit it's a bit awkward. And then things unfold. We've seen it all before, but I liked it. Aaron Ashmore turning up. Fliminec. I'm never not surprised to see how I'm a twin, right? but Aaron Ashmore and Sean Ashmore, they're like proper twins.
Oh, yeah.
They are indistinguishable,
yeah.
as far as I'm concerned. So it was quite interesting to see him for a change. And I didn't know at the time, because it wasn't until I looked in the credits, but actually one of the other cast members is Kiefer Sutherland's brother, Rossif Sutherland, and because the only other one I'm familiar with is Angus Sutherland, who I thought was Kiefer's son, but is actually his brother as well. Angus Sutherland being in Lost Boys 2. But Rossif Sutherland, I don't think I've ever seen before. It's kind of a bit weird, because you kind of it's a bit unfocused about who the main villain of the story is. I maybe that's intentional. I don't know. But we end up with a character who's not necessarily the one who I thought we were going to end up with.
Yeah.
I thought the production, good quality production, and I really liked the. There were a couple of songs, a couple of musical choices towards the end, which I rather enjoyed. There's like a song at the climax, and then there's one over the end credits that I thought would pretty good. I think if you're interested in horror movies and Cabin in the Woods and all that, that's not the film The Cabin in the Woods, but films that take place in that kind of setting. I think you'll definitely like this. I think the sexuality of the principal characters it is progressive. It's good to see. I think we're still at a point where it's more acceptable for the leads to be women, I think, than the men, because I think it would have been interesting to follow the male characters who were introduced at the start. But I think that would, I think we're still at a point where that would be harder to market, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But the leads were great. I liked it a lot. I thought it was really, really good. I'm a lot better than I was expecting. Absolutely.
Yeah, totally agree. I thoroughly enjoy this. As we've said, it's nothing really new other than the sexuality of the sort of protagonists. You could argue why they're there. Well, that is the driving force. That is the motivation for the bad guys in this one. I was sort of struggling to sort of see why the bad guys were doing what they were doing, really, sort of what their actual end game is overall. But it seems like they'd set up this sort of, right-wing, anti-gay sort of, 4chan group or something, and it kind of spiraled, to this situation where I've got a couple of gay guys coming up, renting the bloody cabin down the road. Let's scare them, sort of thing. But obviously, they decided to sort of take it a bit further.
Yeah, I think we've seen this kind of stuff explored in different ways, but sometimes we might not necessarily, that vacancy stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Where they're setting up this kind of thing. You think it's not until you watch a few. I'm watching it. I'm thinking, how did these people get together? It's like you never normally think about how like-minded individuals got together to do this kind of thing together or whatever. But I guess the
4chan man, 4chan and Reddit.
Yeah, I think they could have. I think they could have potentially explored, some of this a bit more. Hostel, there's another one, but so it is a little bit too vague. I think there would have been a bit. I would have liked a bit more character development and motivation around the bad guys in it. But it's a horror movie. You don't. Take it.
No. But you have to satisfy the viewer's curiosity up to a point. I think you got to be able to get to the viewer to a point where it's like, I'm on board with what's going on. I'm not sort of questioning it too much. But no, I did thoroughly enjoy this. I enjoyed the sort of the way these characters sort of dealt with the plight they're in. Sort of the ingenuity that they come up with is pretty good. And that that computer monitor bit was outstanding because there've been a few murders, axe murders or executions in this film, and let's face it, it had been a bit coy with showing anything. It was still sort of brutal scenes, but it was being a bit coy the way it did things. The bit with the computer monitor, not so much at all. That was like that's its big gag, that one, and it worked beautifully, because it made me go, oh my god, watching it. So well done, guys, on that one. And I thought the music in particular was really, really good for this. I thought it really knew when to drive, things forward, knew when to pause, sort of let the music lull a bit and then sort of pick up as the characters sort of got the breath back and carried on. I just thought it really worked. So guys, how are we going to score it? Rich?
Another 7 from me.
And Steve?
6 from me.
And I should note as well, I didn't have the same issue you did, Steve, either. I must have, right at the beginning, when the two guys are getting sort of captured, I did have to sort of go back and sort of watch a tiny bit, about 3 times, to sort of see what, because he's lying on the floor and he's looking at something and he sees something move in the trees.
Yeah.
I was like, what the hell is that? And so I had to keep rewinding to sort of catch what it was. But other than that, no, I didn't have any issues. So what was that, Steve? A 6?
A 6.
Yeah. And a 7 from me. So it's 2 7s and a 6 for The Retreat. Racking my brains. What the hell do we watch? Yes, The Retreat. 2 7s and a 6. Go check it out. Our next review is Stay Out, Stay Alive. 5 young hikers discover an abandoned gold mine dating back to the gold rush and descend into madness and greed as the pursuit of easy riches consumes them. Okay, so we've just been talking about The Retreat, which gets everything right, even though nothing particularly new or anything like that about it. This, I like bits of this, I must admit. The one thing I didn't like was any of the characters. I think you need at least one sympathetic character in order to sort of hang your film on, but these were just like 5 arseholes, and I had no time for any of them. Steve, did you get on with this one at all?
Yes. To be honest, I'm more or less on your page with this one. Yeah, there's certain things that are okay, but like you say, if you don't give a shit about anyone, kind of what's the point? And yeah, they were. Every single one of them, at one point or another, is an arsehole and kind of deserves what's coming to him. And again, it's a criticism I don't normally say, but I think it could have done with being a bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the descent into the greed-fueled madness, especially with a couple of characters, just happens far too quickly.
Yeah, for one of them, it's like almost immediately, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's like instant. As soon as they know.
Mm.
And then you've got like the supernatural element creeping in as well, which again isn't handled great, but certain scenes were okay, but it just doesn't. It didn't flow. It didn't make sense in a way.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Just like you say, as soon as he finds gold, he's trying to. That's everything. Nothing else matters, and there is a kind of reason behind it, but it just doesn't ring true. You know, he's gone for his job. This big job. He's not made the interview.
How fucking stupid is he though? Let's face it. So one of the characters in this is applying to be a firefighter, and you know he likes to smoke dope a lot, and it didn't occur to him at all, because you know this is his dream job, so of course he's researched it and everything, but it didn't occur to him that
he'd have to do
a fucking blood drug test in order to get, you know, you clean? You know, it's not the honor system. I'm clean, man. Yeah. You know, no, you got to do a fucking blood test, and he's surprised that it came back negative, you know, or positive for drugs, whatever. Yeah. What a dick. And this is the level of, you know, intelligence that we're dealing with across the board with these characters. I've got no time for them at all. Rich, how was your patience for this one?
Surprisingly good actually, because I was not expecting much from this film at all. I thought we were in for another fairly cheap looking, shot in the woods, blah blah blah, kind of tale, and a bit like The Retreat. This isn't to the standard of The Retreat, but it's not a million miles far off. I don't think. I mean, this one they haven't got like cabins and stuff in this. It's like it's all kind of outdoor and caves and stuff like that. But I thought this was if you compared this to something like a Wrong Turn movie or something, I don't think it's far off in terms of the quality. I mean, it's decent production values, I would say.
I agree with that.
Yes, it's your standard, a group of obnoxious, 20-somethings or whatever, or late teens, whatever they're supposed to be.
I'd say early 20s.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. So it's like a bit like, say, we had the Wrong Turn reboot recently. That kind of setup, and then getting more than they bargained for and whatnot. And I liked it. I thought it unfolded quite nicely. Yes, it sort of goes perhaps a bit too quickly, in some respects. They're led by the alpha male kind of douchebag character who, it's a bit like The Ledge recently. There's that kind of they're all a bit, they're not great, but there's one that's like worse than the others, and you're like, why? What earth are you?
Yeah, definitely a fraternal brother, that one,
Yeah, absolutely. And you got the Barbara Crampton turns up, which is great, and it's sort of a bit of a ringing endorsement, when she turns up in stuff these days, like a bit like with Superhost and that recently. I thought, you talk about dark. I think this film was quite dark in places, And I'm not sure if I caught all the visual effects, because I think I watched sight of the trailer, and I think there were some bits in there that I was like, I don't remember actually seeing that bit. But whether that was because I was distracted or something, I don't know. But the setup and everything, and the way it plays out, and the film is actually the directorial debut of a visual effects guy. He's got really long, extensive, credits, working on all sorts of big, high-profile stuff. So he's, and he's written and directed this. So this is clearly like something you really wanted to do. And yes, it's generic, and the characters aren't likable and stuff. But I think to pass the time as like a 90-minute horror movie, I think it's really decent.
My only real criticism here is the characterization. No, actually, I've got two. One is the characterization, and the second one is it's not really sure what the threat is or where it's coming from, because on the outside of the mine, we've got this idea of like the local natives have sort of cursed the area, and all these sort of nature spirits sort of hanging around. Whereas inside the mine, we may have the evil spirits of the dead miners. Who are sort of influencing what's going on inside the mine.
Okay. I kind of took it as the same
thing. It seems to be two different things going on, but
I see where you're coming from. Makes sense.
There are some nice visuals. There's a brilliant bit where sort of the lesser douchebag guy taps douchebag number one on the arm, and he sort of quickly turns around, and just for a split second, his eyes, as they sort of like black sooty, effect eyes, sort of smoky, sort of evil kind of thing. And it is a nice sort of very quick blam, blink and you miss it kind of thing. It was a nice sort of quite subtle touch. And there's a good bit at the end when you've got this the landslide happening, and it sort of almost looks like a skull as it sort of, it's almost like a face as it's sort of piling in on itself. That was really well done.
I think,
and it's sort of nice nod to Indiana Jones and the Temple of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade at the end as well. I thought that was pretty cool. It's just the characters. I'm sort of sitting there going, I can't wait a minute. Just leave everything and go. You can't even get your friend from under a rock. You're not really sort of instilling any confidence in what you're doing or anything. Just leave. But no. Anyway. Okay, scores on the doors for Get Out. What's it called? Get Out.
Stay Out, Stay Alive, or just Stay Out. We're not quite sure what they're trying to market as, because basically Stay Out is the main bit. When you watch the film, it says Stay Out, Stay Alive with no punctuation, because it's supposed to be a sign.
Indeed. Steve, over to you. Scores.
I'd give it a 5.
All right, I'm going to slap this with a 6. And Rich?
Yeah, a very respectable 6, I think.
Okay, 1 5 and 2 6s for Stay Out, Stay Alive. Go check it out. Our next review is A Mother's Fury. Barbara O'Brien is a Catholic mother of 4 children and is initially thrilled and proud that her oldest child, Jimmy, has been accepted into a college fraternity, having endured a nasty hazing. But when Jimmy ends up dead, Barbara is compelled to find out exactly what happened and who is responsible. I was not looking forward to watching this, Rich. Cards on the table. I thought this was going to be one of those typical sort of movie of the week kind of dramas, but and it kind of is.
Yeah, it kind of is.
But at the same time, I thought it was very well acted. What's his name?
Robert Patrick.
Robert Patrick's in this playing Barbara's husband, and a very sort of blue collar, sort of Irish Catholic kind of guy.
He doesn't do much.
He doesn't do much, but but at the same time he's very compelling to watch. And
he's Robert Patrick.
He's exactly, and the more he gets older, the more he reminds me of Martin Sheen.
Oh yeah.
He is. I think he's great in this, even though he doesn't do a lot, and he really doesn't. But he's the guy who's sort of left to sort of hold the family together while she's running around. I just thought he was really good. But so the main character here is Barbara O'Brien, played by Siobhan Fallon Hogan. And I thought she was great in this as well. She's this sort of very harried person trying to hold this blue collar family together, trying to get the kids to school and things like that. Meanwhile, her oldest son is at college, and she's very proud of the fact that he's at college. He's probably the first one in her family to ever get there, and the fact that he's been accepted into this fraternity and stuff. It's really, really interesting and really well done. And then we get the other side of it, what's actually going on leading up to sort of Jimmy's death and the fallout from that. And then that's the point where it really becomes movie of the week kind of thing, because it's all about a woman's trying to get justice for her son and trying to do it the legal way, and realizing that actually they're just a bunch of self-serving assholes. And then towards the end, she actually finds out exactly how Jimmy died and why, and then decides that she's going to do something about it. I found this actually pretty compelling overall. Rich, how about yourself?
It took me a couple of goes to get through. I think it does sort of start out as this kind of, well, it's in terms of her journey. What's the character's name in this? Sorry, Barbara. That's right, Barbara. Yeah, so Barbara's journey. It is very much sort of working class hero, crusading. Sort of, I echoing what you were saying. It's that TV movie of the weekish kind of, Mothers Against Drunk Driving or whatever kind of thing that was, or Erin Brockovich, more recently.
Yeah.
Big Swing. But it's got that kind of thing. But then there's a turn, but it's a turn quite late, and it's more of a final act turn, really, a bit like what we saw with White Elephant and stuff. Really, is like it basically all changes in the last act into something different. But that bit itself sort of doesn't take up too much of the running time, and then the film sort of skips forward, and it ultimately ends at a point which feels like end of part one.
Yeah,
I wasn't satisfied with the conclusion. It was like, hang on, because I was thinking there was more coming. It's like, this is like the next part of the film, and then it's like then it just ends, and I'm just like,
it's a weird point to end on, especially considering what she'd actually done.
Well, I didn't feel anything had been resolved.
Exactly. Well, it hadn't, and she pulls back, doesn't she? She doesn't sort of go the whole hog, and as a result, it feels weird that the film decided to sort of skip a bit and then sort of end on that bit.
Yeah, it's like it's not making much of it a point about the whole thing at the start of the film is this really grotesque, toxic masculinity stuff in the fraternity, which is a documented thing. There's lots. It is a real thing. People. The hazing thing going too far, people ending up dead. The things that this isn't based on a true story, which you kind of think it is. It seems like it
could
might
easily be, though, couldn't it?
But it's a fictional story that's touching on these very real cases. And it goes down. It spends a long time going down this one particular avenue, and then we get to this point which I kind of rolled my eyes, because it was like she's doing the crusading thing, and she's getting the thing, and wouldn't you know it, she just happens to end up in a room with all these guys, and they're saying how frats are under threat and whatever, and that's like from people like her, and I was just thinking, that's just a bit too on the nose. It's just it didn't quite. I didn't like that bit. I just thought that was just too heavy-handed, and then it kind of she's going to continue her journey in a different direction with the crusading, but then kind of her husband, who's just basically sitting in the bar or whatever, he basically triggers her.
He solves it all. Just by sitting at the bar and go, oh yeah, no, his best friend just told me everything that happened.
Yeah. Well, no, but also the fact that he doesn't, he basically causes her to do what she does, because he's like, he's not doing anything. He's just sort of sitting there, and he then basically tells, gives her information that then tips her over the edge.
Yeah.
kind of get a revenge story from that point, but it's quite a brief one.
He knows exactly what he's done, though, doesn't he? That's the thing, Robert Patrick's character. I think by telling her, he knows exactly what he's done.
Well, I don't know, because
what she's going to do.
They don't develop that or explore it or focus on, do anything with his character or anything. It's kind of hop, skip, and a jump in that last part of it.
It is. There's other bits as well, which I do quite like. It's quite funny. Is this is a family who never goes anywhere or does anything, and when she sort of finally takes off to sort of go pushing buttons, and she's carrying all of her clothes in the washing basket. Because like all the only suitcase they got is moldy because it's never been used in so long, so she's just like dumped everything in a washing basket. That was quite amusing.
And there's all her amazement of going to the people's houses and isn't this you've got this wonderful house and all this fish out of water kind of thing. She's kind of, this journey is kind of her spreading her wings and sort of seeing the world for the first time, kind of stuff that but I think it's just. It is about an hour and 40 minutes, but it still feels that some of it's a bit too slow, and then other parts of it are rushed, and it just felt like it needed more time. I think maybe interestingly, Barbara Siobhan Fallon Hogan, she is the scriptwriter as well. She wrote the movie, and she's been probably more known as like a supporting player in her career. So this is kind of like her trying to do a project which kind of so allows her to branch out as well. I think I don't know her career well enough to know how many leading roles she's actually had, but I think she's absolutely fine. She's good, and her characterization is excellent. I would say a bit too heavy-handed maybe in some bits, a bit too in the same way that the film is a bit too on the nose at certain points. But I really wanted the film to get to a point where actually we felt like we were getting justice for her son in the sort of way that she was originally intending, and sort of making a statement, making a point that you could leave the viewers with. Whereas I think the point that you end up at is supposed to be a thought-provoking one, but it's not. It just kind of leaves you a bit befuddled. Yeah, and the other thing was we also had a couple of films, horror movies, basically, really that did explore a similar sort of culture. I mean, there was on the big screen there was Black Christmas, the sort of remake, but I didn't think much of that. But there was that slasher movie, that slasher movie that we watched.
The one with the swimmer guy who got murdered, and then. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, which I can't remember. And
I can't remember the title of it.
We had Trick, and then we also had this other one, which in the initiation or something.
I think that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah. So, and I felt like in a way, that movie made a point better, made a point that was a bit clearer or whatever than what this film was trying to say. It is a bit. It's been marketed as that is a mother's fury thing, which is the title that Signature Entertainment have given it.
It looks like it's trying to be like a if you watch the trailer, you think, it's like Death Wish or something like that. But,
Death Wish or The Brave One or what was it? Kind of a female Liam Neeson movie, basically, like the kind of movies that Liam Neeson is making these days. That would be that kind of story. And it kind of touches on that and whatever, but it's a bit indecisive or whatever. But so it's probably one of the films that I was most frustrated watching this week.
And on that note, how are you going to score it?
I think it's very well made, so I'm going to have to give it at least a 5. So on the fence with a 5.
I think I'm going to go with a 6 on this one. So there you go, a 5 and a 6 for A Mother's Fury. Go check it out. Our next review is Narco Sub. Bruce Stryker is a DEA agent who finds himself forced to work with a drug cartel in order to save his wife and daughter. There comes a film, guys. every now and again we see a film which is gunning for the throne. Which throne you may be thinking of? Well, it is a throne that is currently held by the likes of the Kane. What was it called now?
Code of Cain.
The Code of Cain and the Diamond Cartel. You know, it's aiming for those because it can't be aiming for anything else, as far as I'm concerned. This is a pile of shit. It really is. This hurt my eyes and my ears watching this.
You didn't like it then?
No. You getting the idea?
Yeah.
Even Tom Sizemore can't do anything for this. You know, the whole thing just, it stank. It really did stink. Steve, agree or disagree?
I agree. Yeah, it was awful. It was all over the place. I mean, the guy, the main character, I mean, not only that, the first 5 minutes, is all like a montage of this cartel and news interview. And then all of a sudden it just jumps to normal, like normal screening and stuff like that. And that threw me. I'm like, what's going on here? It just jumps. And then there's so many stupid and inane scenes that don't need to be there. I mean, there's a scene where he's in an office talking to a woman at the window that he's going to go have a beer. No, he's not going for a beer. He's going to go home to his family. It just doesn't need to be there. There's just so many.
What's the point of that? Because his job is he works for the DEA. Why is he in this situation at all? It's just
it's all over the place.
Why is the head of the DEA being interviewed on live TV, and in the next minute he's being tortured by the cartel?
Yeah.
Why? Oh God, no! It hurt. It really did hurt watching this.
And the ending really pissed me off. It's like, you're fucking kidding me. I'm sorry, but yeah.
It's like what? Everyone's just going to go for that, are they?
Yeah.
But anyway, initial thoughts, Rich.
No, I didn't. I was going to say I loved it. I was going to say I loved it, but no, I can't. No, it doesn't make it any easier when you got a screener with the worst watermark.
Yeah. Like, you might as well just got a gaffer tape and just put a big X or gaffer tape.
Yeah, it was like an X. But there is basically an X across the screen for the most part, and which makes some of the scenes hard to see because they're dark scenes and then all you can see is the watermark. Where's the sub was one of the thing that I was thinking most of the time when I was watching it, because the sub only appeared. It's like that film Submerged that Steven Seagal did, but I kind of could accept that one a bit more. But this one, it's it says Narco sub, and it shows a sub, and you think, it's going to be set on a sub. No, the sub appears about 45 minutes in, and then it's not. It's
for like 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's not a feature. Originally, it was called The Shipment. Which I don't get. I understand why they changed the title, because what that means that's not an exciting title at all. I think what they've tried to go for here is they're aiming for like a Sicario kind of thing.
Yeah,
there's some sort of they're aiming for seriousness, but it's not bad enough to be amusing in the way it's sort of mishandled, but it just feels more pretentious and just rubbish than anything. I like the fact, we got Robert Lasardo in quite a good, big role for him, which I always enjoy seeing because he's normally a background player. Tom Sizemore is Tom Sizemore, just
literally,
sort of peppered throughout the movie.
There's one cameo. I'm so glad he isn't in it much. This one guy turns up right at the end. I thought, okay, fine. He kept himself to a minimum.
Right at the end. We're not talking about Lee, because I don't. Lee Majors.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Was he at the end?
Yeah,
I thought he appeared around the middle.
No. He's the guy who saves him from, when they do the drug deal at the end.
Oh, okay. All right. I was saying my mind wasn't really with the film for much. I mean, I'll go with what you guys. Some of the scenes are just like, just going nowhere and stuff. What's the bit with the cartel leader or whatever and his girlfriend or wife, and her running around going "mi amore, mi amore." Someone was like, "Oh, shut up!" It's just like, so that was, why were we following their relationship at all? That wasn't really very interesting. The lead character, who's the one who's gone undercover, or he's gone not necessarily undercover, but he's gone in and he's got to try and get his family back or whatever. It wasn't interesting. It could have been like a good, rock, solid action movie, and it kind of leans into action movie stuff at the end. He's running around sort of stabbing people and being pretty, very heavy-handed violence at the end, but it doesn't really work, and none of the pieces fit together.
No,
it's just not. Yeah, it's just not good.
It's a mess.
It is a mess, and it's got some really annoying music in it as well.
Yeah. So this film, it is so bad. It does. You're taking out the film all the time watching it. But that bit towards the end when he's sort of storming the cartel's sort of base, as it were, just throw up so many questions for me. Like, if you're working for a cartel, and you're one of these guys sort of having to walk around with a gun all day, sort of guarding the place, do you ever get time off? Do you get vacation time? Do they have enough guys to actually sort of switch out? Well, that shift's over. You can go home, guys. See you Tuesday, Jerry. That sort of thing. Or is it a case of, hey, boss, I need to take next week off? It's like, why? What's going to happen next week? Yeah, you know what I mean? I'm just like, I'm intrigued to know. Does anyone really think about this shit? It's like, well, I'd love to see a whole, maybe a short film just called Cartel HR. Just some poor guy having to sort of like work out everyone's shift patterns so they can cover the boss. And then
this is a bit like the whole Stormtroopers thing, isn't it?
It is a bit.
Yeah.
They're just and the contractors working on the Death Star or whatever.
I just want to know. It's like, well, what is the benefit of working for these guys? These guys are sort of fucking rich. I mean, presumably you're going to get money. You're going to get lots of money sort of working for these guys. When is your downtime where you can actually spend stuff? When you're actually going to have a chance to actually enjoy what it is, the benefits of actually working for this guy.
This is what you think about when the film.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about when the film is like shit. Yeah, exactly.
Now, here's a question: what film is worse, this or Zeros and Ones?
Oh, Zeros and Ones.
Yeah. I agree. That is the one good thing about this movie is that it is not Zeros and Ones.
It is not Zeros and Ones.
Because at least there is something coherent about it.
Yeah.
Even if it's just individual scenes.
if
actually follow something, although it's doing a similar thing. I think and Zeros and Ones are
It was in there. It was Ethan Hawke, wasn't it? If Ethan Hawke was in Narco Sub, he'd be still at the end going, "Yeah, Narco Sub." when he's promoting it, he wouldn't be sort of going, "What the fuck have I just done to my career?"
Well, if Ethan Hawke was in this, it would be a cross between Narco, be a cross between Zeros and Ones and 24 Hours to Die or Live or whatever.
Wash your mouth out with soap. I like 24 Hours to Live.
No, I'm sure. I want to see it. I think it looks really good. But I think in that movie, that's kind of an action movie, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
I think the bit that happens at the end of this is kind of, I can imagine Ethan Hawke doing that kind of action stuff at the end. Whereas obviously in Zeros and Ones, he didn't really do anything.
Oh, Zeros and Ones.
But anyway, this is not Zeros and Ones complaining again. I just thought it was an interesting comparison to.
I'm glad you brought up Zeros and Ones, though, because we're at the midpoint of the year, and I'm already thinking about how I'm going to write up this year. What is the worst thing we've seen? And it's definitely Zeros and Ones. Anyway, okay, Rich, scores on the doors.
Because it's better than Zeros and Ones, I'm gonna have to say 3.
3. And Steve?
Yeah, I'll go 3.
Yeah, I'll have to make it a 3. Yeah, 3 3s for Narco sub. Please, there's other stuff out there. There's other stuff we're covering tonight that is much more worth your time. But if you're desperate, go check it out. 3 threes for Narco sub. Our next review is Ultrasound. When his car breaks down on a dark and stormy night, Glenn finds himself spending the night with an overly hospitable couple. Didn't he? Okay, so this is a mind fuck. This really is. This fucked my mind, seriously. When I was watching it, and I was, the first 10 minutes when he arrives at this house, this weird guy sort of going, "Hey, yeah, come in, Glenn," all this sort of stuff. And I think there comes a point in horror sort of narratives, or where a character must think internally to themselves, "Oh, so this is how I'm going to die." It's like I'm on a dark and stormy night. My car's broken down. There's no one for miles. Oh, except for these weird people in this house. It's like I think part of me would just be resigned to death by that point. It's like, okay, let's see what happens. Just throw yourself out there. And that's my mindset going into the first 10 minutes of this film, and then it lurches to some point in the future. It's daylight, this guy's gone home, and we have no fucking idea what actually happened in that house. And it just gets weirder and weirder from there. And I have to admit, I loved every second of it. I just had no idea where it was going. I did not know who the characters are. I did not know what the fuck was going on from one moment to the next. And that was a lot of that was down to the strength of the way the film was edited, the way characters were switched in and out during the same scene. I thought it was absolutely superbly done. The soundscape that this film builds up, and then when you're about 3/4 of the way in, it slowly starts to click together. And there's a bit to do with a breakfast tray. And at that point, I was pointing at this finger. Oh my God! I can see it now. But maybe that was just me. How about you, Steve?
I think that bit was just you, but I did no, because like you say, it's a mind fuck. It really is, and I don't know. I think maybe because there was that much going on, I kind of miss. I think I've missed something near the end, and it does kind of bring it together, but to me it didn't in a way. And I don't know, but like you said, it's really enjoyable. Don't get me wrong, I did enjoy it, but it is an actual mindfuck. I've not seen anything like this for a long while, because it's original. It's very well done, very well performed, especially like Breeder Wool, who plays Shannon. Like the female. I don't even know if she is a doctor or what. I don't know.
No, she's like a psychotherapist, I think.
Yeah. That's what. But like I said, you got the first 10 minutes, and you're thinking, right, okay, this is where we're heading, and it just pulls the rug out of you, Monday, so many times. It's not just there, it's continuous going through, and you're like, hang on, but that mystery and that intrigue does actually drag you in more. And really, really well done.
It's like bits where I don't know, they're doing the role playing and stuff, and you're going, what? And then there's this people surveilling them in the bands outside, and you're like, what? It's just like, what the fuck is going on? It's just so well done. Rich, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I like you. I mean, I was completely intrigued from the opening scenes or whatever. Just what just not knowing what on earth's going on. It's just being very confusing, but not too, impenetrable that it's kind of pushing you away. It's kind of just the right amount of just the right amount of confusion to just sort of keep you hooked. And there's bits that it keeps changing, and you're not quite sure what's going on. Then a little bit is revealed, and then it's kind of turning the tables again and stuff. But it did remind me of a few things, because it's kind of got these themes of the mental, manipulation, memory, playing with memory. It is a psychological kind of thriller in the purest sense. It's very much about the psychology. It's in the minds of the characters. It reminded me of Faults, which has a similar kind of dynamic. I think is that it's a small cast. It's like set in it's basically set around a hotel, and there's sort of these sort of quirky characters are a bit quirky. There's a little bit of humor. It's very sort of a serious thing, but it's very serious. So there was some similarity, and again, sort of the manipulation of the characters and what's really going on. The sci-fi film, which was called over here 2099, The Soldier Protocol. Originally called The Wheel. The idea of this woman going into this organization, joining this company and working on this science project, basically, and then kind of siding with the subjects that happens in that movie. There was a bit of that in this, I felt. And also Identity, the John Cusack and James Mangold film, which again is all about what's going on with certain a bunch of characters and things not making sense, and callbacks. You see what, like you say with the tray, you see it in one circumstance, but then you see it in another circumstance. And what's really happening there. So I was connecting to it with these little touchstones, but the film itself is, like you say, it feels original. It just feels so much unlike something else you've seen, even though there's those familiar bits, which you're going to get with any film generally, but it's not. It threatens to be like a David Lynch kind of thing.
Yeah. So Lynch and Cronenberg are definitely touched.
Yeah, Cronenberg, definitely. Yeah. I mean, there's a little bit of Videodrome comes to mind and stuff like that. But the it's just all this like or a Twin Peaksiness to it. There's like that bit at the start where the therapist sort of character is being introduced, and she puts the headphones on and she starts sort of talking to herself, and then she starts reading a script, sort of acting it out, and then they kind of go to the next scene where somebody else is saying
the same thing,
and it's like what is happening? and things. It's the kind of movie that really you still don't know when you finished it, but it just demands. It's the kind of movie that you just really want to go back and watch it again, and see if you can, take the knowledge that you've got at the end and bring it back and see if you can, put it fully together in your mind. I think it's definitely a kind of the way it's done is so clever, and it's got this rewatchability built into it. I think it deserves to be. I don't think it's going to be a big success because I don't think many people are going to know about it. But I think hopefully it will be something that people like ourselves can spread awareness of it and talk to get people to see it. Vincent I'm going to.
Let's go with Kartheiser.
Kartheiser, yeah. I didn't recognize him at first. I mean, I've seen him in stuff since he did a Larry Clark movie, Another Day in Paradise, a long time ago, and loads of other stuff. But more recently, probably best known as Pete Campbell in Mad Men. And I just, because he got a beard and stuff in this, I didn't recognize him at first, and I thought he was good. And the guy who's the husband, who he has these encounters with, I thought he was the scientist guy who's sort of going on about cheese and stuff in the. And talking about the building and there's that sort of it's comical, but it's not comedy. It's just it's like walking a tightrope. It kind of his character is really great because he's kind of is he a nice guy, is he a bad guy kind of thing. You're not quite sure. for the most part, I mean, things do sort of settle down on one side, but still, his character is drawn so intriguingly that you're kind of warm to him. It's like as a viewer, and I think what was the name of what was the actress playing the sort of the key, not the wife character, but the sort of therapist.
Chelsea Lopez.
Yeah, Chelsea Lopez. She was really great. I think it's about as close you can get to as like a perfectly intriguing kind of sci-fi, psychological thriller as we've had for a really long time.
Yeah, the closer. I mean, and it's completely different. But I think if you liked broadcast signal intrusion, you'll probably enjoy this. If you can get into that one, then I think you'll enjoy this.
Vice versa, because I didn't actually get to check that one out, so I'll have to.
Yeah, no, I like that one. It just loses at the end, but this I think sort of sticks the landing very well. Okay, scores on the doors. Steve,
8.
And Rich,
9.
Yeah, and it's a definitely 9 for me as well. This is top 10 of the year for me. That's for sure. 2 9s and an 8. We cannot recommend this enough. It is a mind fuck. Please go check it out. Our short shot this week is Kung Fu Kerfuffle. A nefarious rooftop deal goes bad and leads to a scrap between the buyer and seller. Hey, is this where the bomb deal is going down? Is probably one of my favorite lines of the year so far. I thought that was great. Steve, what do you make of Kung Fu Kerfuffle?
It's quite a light in tone. Well, it's strange because you've got like 2 tones really. You got the first half. Hang on, excuse me, which is like a undercover action scene. Like you're getting some, and then all of a sudden it turns into something like 21 Jump Street. They're sat in the
film version.
In the boss's office type thing.
Or
and
Police Squad or something.
And I don't know if I've got over the switching tones, if you know what I mean. It just threw me quite a bit on that. But yeah, I mean, I thought the fight scene was very well done, well shot, and then it just, I don't know, it just goes a bit weird to me. It wasn't that, and also I didn't actually find it that funny, to be fair. The second half, but it was okay. It had a certain charm, but I wasn't laughing out loud or anything.
I did like the bit where they're like going, "Wait, I thought I was by the bomb." These two inept people who hadn't actually bothered to read their own sort of undercover brief before trying to do this thing. I thought it was quite amusing. But yeah, no, I did like this. I like the whole sort of chewing out on the office scene. We recently reviewed Cop Secret, which had a similar sort of thing. Where they get, you guys have destroyed the city, etc. Yeah, quite like all that. There's a good sort of outtake as well, where the poor cop at the background, in the back of the room, is just cracking up and trying to hold it together, which I thought was really, really funny as well. Rich, what can you tell us about this film, if anything?
Well, the director of the film is Etienne Laurendeau. It's a French Canadian filmmaker. So they made a number of shorts, I think, before, including one called Grip of Death, which is kind of like a martial arts spoof about getting your testicles grabbed, basically. And I think if I recall correctly, but the this is kind of interesting. It's called, I think the title actually misleads. I don't think it's actually an appropriate title, because it makes you feel like it's going to be a martial arts short. Sort of spoof martial art, and it is, but then it's something else. And like you said, Steve was saying, it's kind of two scenes. And the first part of the movie is the martial arts short, and then the second part, there's no martial arts after that. and it's just a sketch. Basically, it's a sketch in the police station, whatever. But although I might, the shift isn't quite, it feels like it should have, I don't know, gone a little bit the other way or been topped and tailed a bit or something. But I did like the being chewed out by the superior, and they're just sort of, oh yeah, okay, yeah, we've got to given our badges, wink wink kind of thing. And he's no, you're really in trouble. Yeah, of course we're in trouble. I did really enjoy that. I thought it felt like the acting and the performances were better in that second part than they were in the first part. The first bit, which has choreography by a guy called Fred New-Khan, who's done loads of action and stuff. So they've got credible people on board. But I thought that those two guys sort of and they really relaxed into those characters, and it felt like something that would be. You guys said like 21 Jump Street sort of thing. I was thinking, I haven't seen it, but like the other guys and any of these action cop cop movie spoofs. You said like the Naked Gun, so like a cop movie spoof kind of thing, or Cop Secret even. You could see that you could do more with those characters. I think there's a bigger film that potentially could happen with those, but I did think as a sketch itself it worked quite well. But it's almost like one part didn't need the other part. The first bit is kind of, it feels like it's a beginning, middle, end. As there's the joke, that's the punchline, and then the film would end, and then it's almost like the bit about the misunderstanding between the you've destroyed the city and you're actually really in trouble, and then them kind of just not getting it is like a separate film. It's almost it maybe was like, so to me I find that a minor a little negative, because it's just like it was the Kung Fu kerfuffle is like the first bit, and the second part is almost like a completely different different short film. But I did really I do think it's really worth watching. It's a good fun film. It's only 8 minutes.
Yeah, definitely. We don't score the shorts, but we do recommend you check them out, and you'll find the link to this in the footnotes below. Go check it out. Our DTV throwback this week is Takedown. Kyle and Amy are among a number of young rich kids sent to a remote Scottish island retreat to learn a few life lessons and how to take a bit of responsibility with their privileged lives. Things are going well until a small team of mercenaries hit the island to take them all hostage. I saw this a while ago, and I must admit, I thought it was pretty damn nifty. I really do like this. Some good characterization in here. I think they make a real good fist of the location. I think there's some brilliant photography in this, and it's a decent little thriller overall. Steve, what did you make of Takedown?
Not too bad. It's a bit. Again, it's slightly generic for me. It's, same old brats. It can remind me of, what was the film? Is it Small? No, not Small Soldiers.
Toy Soldiers.
Toy Soldiers. Yeah.
I'd agree. Where they take over the school and stuff like that, except it's on a remote island in the middle of nowhere. And, and they are a bit twatty at first, all the kids, and they're annoying. But they start getting whipped into shape, and then the setup is there for the taking, basically. All these millionaires' kids on one island. Let's just go out, hold them to ransom, and we'll just rake the money in. And the secret baddie again on this is totally obvious. Straight away, you knew exactly who it is. And
I didn't. I thought it was the other guy.
All right, fair enough. But it's okay. It wasn't groundbreaking or anything like that. And I think a lot of the violence it doesn't really kick off till the last 20 minutes, half an hour. Before that, I thought it was a little bit of a slog, to be fair, to get to that point. But yeah, it was okay.
Rich, do you fare any better with this one?
Yeah, I did like it. I thought it is kind of doing that Toy Soldiers or Demolition High-ish sort of Die Hard kind of situation, basically, with a youngster, sort of, young guy. But it kind of it's the guy, he runs around by himself and then he ends up teaming up with the others again, which is what happened in Toy Soldiers. I thought it was, the location's quite interesting. It's set in Scotland, actually shot, I think, in the Isle of Man and Wales. But there's like a cliffhanger-ish sort of element to a couple of scenes, which is
that rope bridge bit.
It's a film that on a relatively I don't know how similar in any way it is, but I was really reminded of, I think it was MJ Bassett's Wilderness. I don't know if that was more of a horror. That was a horror movie, but I think it had a similar concept of people being sent to a boot camp kind of thing. I might be completely wrong on that because it's been a really long time since I saw it, but that's what came to mind. The film is made. This is the most interesting thing about it, I think. It's directed by Jim Gillespie, who is a Scottish film director, but he made his feature film debut with I Know What You Did Last Summer, which was kind of a really big sort of out of the gate kind of movie for him. But his career was kind of, unfortunately, on the downslide after that. He had he got a shot to direct Sylvester Stallone and a fantastic cast in the film Detox, originally called.
Oh, was that him as well?
Yeah, and that movie had major problems, and eventually that was DTV over here. Venom was another horror movie with sort of teen characters, which I don't think ever got released in the UK. Although I might be wrong, maybe it did turn up at some point, but it certainly took a while. If I feel free, if somebody point me out if I'm wrong on that. But Venom basically didn't do much at all. And after that, his career, he only directed a couple of things, including this in I think 24. It's credited as 2016, but at the end of the film it says 2014. So whether it took again a couple of years to actually come out, and that's the last thing he's credited as directing. And now, what I find interesting is there's a definite similarity to a lot of those films. Is they're all about groups of young people. He seems to work quite well, or not all of them. Detox is about a group of people of different ages, but they're all about groups of people. But specifically, more commonly, he does them with groups of young people. So the I Know What You Did Last Summer, sort of this is more similar to Detox in that sort of isolated setting that it's got, but whereas I Know You Did Last Summer was also a coastal kind of setting. So this is kind of a film that's working in sort of situations and with situations and characters and stuff that he's very well familiar with. He's done a lot of this, and I think that helps the movie sort of rise above some budget limitations. I think there's there's some sort of giveaways of we essentially focus on a very limited space around the lighthouse. We don't really see a lot of the rest of the island. There's only 3 villains, which just sort of seems a bit threadbare. It feels like it should be more like a proper because we've seen other films that do this kind of thing, and they're like big tactical unit kind of things that they do. It's like they've just hired a couple of guys and a girl to seem quite young, although Ed Westwick's doing his not really gruff kind of voice kind of thing. But Ashley Walters is there as the sort of, is he, they seem like they wanted to do something with his character of, is he so bad kind of thing, but they, is he getting in much more deeper than he actually wanted to kind of thing, but they don't really explore that very much. But yeah, you got that nice opening with the sports car crash and stuff, and I think there's some of the action when it happens is very well handled, so I think it's good. I'm not surprised it didn't get a cinema release. It looks good enough to be on a cinema screen, I think.
It's very polished, yeah.
Yeah, it is. But I think there's just not enough that's sort of novel or interesting to what we've got going on.
And there's no names to hang on it either, is there? You know,
I mean,
they're all competent people. They're all, you know, I think they all fit really well. But you know, there's no recognizable names in the cast for people.
No, I like seeing. We got Sebastian Koch, who's a German actor, I believe. I've seen him in a fair number of things. I haven't seen him in a role quite like this. He's playing the father, the lead character's father. It seemed like I wasn't sure if they were trying to get him to play an American or whether they were just letting him use his accent. So his accent's a bit mixed, I think.
Wonky,
but he is, you know, he is solid. You know, like, you know, it's kind of the sort of thing you would think, oh, maybe they'll get like a Pierce Brosnan to kind of play that role or something. But I think he was good. I quite liked the cast of, you know, potentially douchey characters. It's like they're not too bad. You know, they're kind of there's a little bit of redemption in there and stuff. It's not great. You know, they don't do a huge amount with them, to be honest. I mean,
but there are some nice flashes. You know, for example, I do like the fact that, you know, that Amy happened to have been the girl who was in the car that Kyle crashed at the beginning. And then of course he turns up and there she is. He's like, oh, fuck.
That was obvious. They always do.
That was coming.
I don't know. I mean, the first time I watched it, I was like, you know, that sort of surprised me. But I thought that was really cool. There's another good bit there as well. Where one of the other characters who, you know, the head guy sort of outs him and sort of says, "Oh yeah, you crashed through the front of a Starbucks because you were texting on your phone when you're driving," and the guy does this thing which, you know, he tries to downplay what he did. It's like, oh yeah, but she wasn't really hurt, sort of thing. You know, it's like you make it sound a lot worse than it is, which is that sort of like, you know, trying to shirk the responsibility of what you've done, which I thought was a nice sort of character beat, personally. Also, Amy's use of a broken arm at the end, I thought that was sort of
that was pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, complete nonsense. Obviously,
not only that, but you know, the you know, her reaction to it as well, because, you know, doing that would be incredibly painful as well. And
it's like she forgets that she's got this horrible wound, and then but I guess you would, though, because I mean, you know, the adrenaline is flowing. You know, you're in this high tension situation. I can kind of buy that, but then I mean, it's so. It is quite silly, but yeah, it's one of the most memorable bits in the movie, definitely.
Definitely.
It's very brisk watch. I mean, it's really. I mean, I would definitely say it's worth watching. It's good. It looks good.
It looks great. You know, I loved all this sort of out of bounds stuff at the beginning. You know, sort of trying to teach these kids a bit of hard work and stuff like that, and you know, the whole thing with the rope bridge and trying to get them to climb and stuff, and Kyle. You know, you realize after a point that Kyle's still lying his ass off about what happened. You know, he just cannot admit what he did, and until he has to. And I just thought, you know, his sort of redemptive arc, I thought was well played, because he's an arsehole until he isn't. But yeah, okay. Well, we don't score the throwbacks either, but we do recommend you check them out. This is currently on Amazon Prime. And we'll put the trailer on as we usually do. Other than that, guys, that is the end of this week's show. So thanks to Steve and Rich for this slog through 7 films tonight. I said 6 at the beginning, but I forgot one. 7 films, because we, you know, haven't been around for a while. Film of the week, definitely Ultrasound. We certainly recommend you check that out. And if you have, you know, please avoid Narco sub unless you don't believe us, but you've been warned. Other than that, thank you for listening. Tune in next time.
Thank you for listening to the DTV Digest. Let us know your thoughts in the comments and tune in again next time.